Hi, and welcome to today's Daily Chronicle. Today is Monday, December 15th, 2025. If the holidays are stressing you out, remember, everything is optional. Managing a full December calendar and a long list of to-dos quickly take you from festive to frazzled if you're trying to make everything picture perfect, Instagrammable, and core memory. Nero Feliciano, a psychotherapist and author of All Is Calmish, How to Feel Less Frantic and More Festive During the Holidays, shares advice on reducing stress and increasing joy this season. For most of her life, Nero Feliciano's checklist for the holidays looked like this: host the family gatherings, write greeting cards, shop for gifts, decorate and peel carrots for Santa's reindeers, and all while raising 4 kids and going to work every day. All the effort to make things perfect for her family left Feliciano feeling frantic and disconnected when the holidays finally arrived. On Christmas morning, she says she was so tired from preparing the night before, she could barely stay awake while her children opened their presents. I remember thinking, I'm not here, I'm missing this. That realization spurred Feliciano, a psychotherapist, to write a book on how to stay present during the holidays. All Is Calmish, How to Feel Less Frantic and More Festive During the Holidays. Published in November, it offers practical tips and prompts to zap stress and foster deeper connections this time of year. Many of them don't require anything more than a small shift in the way you view the holidays. She shared a few in a recent interview with Life Kit. Nero Feliciano is a psychotherapist and the author of All Is Calmish, How to Feel Less Frantic and More Festive During the Holidays. Pick 3 moments you want to be present for. You probably won't have the time and attention for everything on your to-do list, so shorten it down to the moments that matter to you most. Maybe it is Christmas morning or dinner with the family or the concert that you're attending. Feliciano says, at that moment, show up as much as you can. Change your perspective. Instead of naming all the things you have to do, name what you get to do. Feliciano says, for example, I get to make holiday cards. I get to hang out with my whole family. Shifting how we perceive these activities can turn them from obligations to privileges that can make some of the pressure off too. Remember, everything is optional. While it may feel like you have to do every tradition on your list, you actually don't. Feliciano says, if it's not bringing you joy, let it go. So if you've been dragging your feet about sending out holiday cards, give yourself the permission to do things a little differently this year. She says, then focus your energy on other activities that do excite you. Evaluate expectations or beliefs you have for yourself and your family during the holidays. If you're often left with a feeling of disappointment, maybe it's time to revisit those expectations so they're more realistic. Feliciano says, for example, if you feel cranky every year because family time is never as peaceful as you want, remember that some discord is likely with so many people under one roof. A little bit of stress is normal when families spend an extended amount of time together. Feliciano says, there will still be moments that are joyful. Fewer characters on TV had abortions this year, and more stories reinformed shame. Abby Ryder Forston portrayed Christy Wheeler, a teen who came into the hospital for a medication abortion, on The Pit. Storylines about abortion and conversations about it showed up on television 65 times this year. On prestigious dramas like The Pit and Call the Midwife, on reality shows such as Wags to Riches and Love is Blind, and on lowbrow animated comedies like Family Guy and South Park. That's about the same as last year in 2024. TV shows featured 66 such plot lines. But in the past few years, there's been a significant drop in the number of characters who actually went through with an abortion. 37% obtained an abortion in 2025, and 14% decline since 2023. That's according to the annual abortion on-screen report. It comes from advancing new standards in reproductive health, a research program on abortion and reproductive health based at the University of California, San Francisco. I think there's still a lot of stigma, even in allegedly liberal Hollywood, says researcher Steph Harold. She says the report, which has come out for about a decade, reflects a profound lack of accurate representation of abortion use in America. For example, she points to research showing that about 60% of real-life Americans who seek an abortion deal with some sort of barrier, but only about a third of people who are characters on screen face any kind of barrier to abortion. Harold said whether it's not being able to come up with the cost of the abortion, not having somebody to watch their kids to cover for them, or cover for them at work, having to deal with clinics that are miles away, or in other states, having insurance that wouldn't cover the cost. Most TV shows in 2025 depicting women struggling to get abortions focused on legal obstacles in the past and present. On TV, 80% of characters seeking abortions are upper or middle class. But in real life, most abortion patients struggle to make ends meet. This disparity obscures the role that poverty plays in obstructing access to abortion. And perhaps explains why we so rarely see plot lines in which characters wrestle with financial barriers to abortion access, the study says. This year, a teenager on The Pit sought abortion pills to end her pregnancy. One of the only 3 stories depicting medication abortion of about 65 plot lines about abortion this year. That's another disparity between representation on screen and real-world numbers. Research shows that abortion pills account for the majority of abortions in the U.S. Another difference, only 8% of the people seeking abortion on TV are parents. In real life, most abortion patients have at least one child. It is unrealistic, says Harold, to expect TV to perfectly reflect current abortion use in the U.S. But she says she was disappointed by certain trends. Fewer characters this year received emotional support and around their abortions. And more shows, she said, including Chicago Med 1923 Breathless and Secrets We Keep featured plot lines. That emphasize shame and stigma around abortions, especially because of religion. These storylines, the report says, both obscure the diversity of religious observance among people having abortions, portraying religious patients as exclusively Christian. And also only associating religion with prohibiting abortion, instead of being a meaningful or supportive part of someone's abortion decision-making and experience. But even though abortion has long been a hot-button political issue, Harold says millions of Americans have had some sort of experience with abortion, whether it's having one themselves or helping a daughter or a friend. She said, adding that stories that reflect a diversity of abortion experiences will be familiar to many viewers. One bright spot, she added, was that television is doing a better job of reflecting the racial realities of abortion. A slight majority of characters in abortion plotlines are people of color. And though they are by far the majority of abortion seekers in real life, and although they are by far this marks a notable improvement from a decade ago when TV shows more often portrayed women seeking abortions as wealthy and white. What to know about the Brown University shooting? First responders with the Providence Fire Department maneuver an empty stretcher near the Barris and Hawley building at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island on Saturday. A gunman opened fire inside a Brown University academic building on Saturday afternoon as students were gathered to take their final exam, killing 2 students and injuring 9 others. Officials in Providence, Rhode Island said Sunday morning that police had detained a man in his 20s as a person of interest. A source familiar with the investigation, who was not authorized to speak publicly, identified the person as interest as Benjamin Erickson. Authorities have not released any other details about him or a potential motive. The outbreak of violence at the Ivy League school shocked the community. Just days before students and faculty were preparing to leave for winter break, said Providence Mayor Brett P. Smiley. I think maybe intellectually we knew it could happen anywhere, including here, Smiley said at a Sunday morning press conference, but that's not the same as it happening in our community. The attack drew messages of sympathy and well wishes from across the state and beyond, including from President Trump, who offered his condolences to the victims and their families. Brown University is a great school, Trump said Sunday from the White House. To the 9 injured, get well fast, and to the family of those 2 that are no longer with us, I pay my deepest regards and respects. 7 of the victims were in critical but stable conditions on Sunday, while 1 victim was in a critical condition, according to Brown University President Christina Paxson. A 9th victim was treated at the hospital and discharged. The shooting occurred around 4 p.m. Eastern Time at the Barrison Holly Engineering and Physics Building in an economics class, Paxson said. Our community is strong, and we'll get through it, she said in a press briefing Sunday. But it's devastating. Providence Police Chief Oscar Perez said Sunday that investigators were not actively looking for anyone else, but that the investigation was ongoing. Law enforcement detained the person of interest Sunday morning in a hotel room in Coventry, about 20 miles southwest of Brown. Based on a lead by the Providence Police, FBI Director Kash Patel said in a post on X. Investigators had previously said they were searching for a suspect described as a male dressed in black. The suspect fled the scene on foot, but it was unclear how he entered the building. Police added Brown University's Provost Francis Doyle said cards were swiped to access the building, but that there was probably a lot of traffic during exams. Officials had released a short video of a person of interest walking away from the scene of the shooting along a sidewalk, but the video did not show the person's face. On Sunday, Doyle said Brown would cancel almost all remaining in-person exams for the fall semester, so the university could focus our efforts on providing care and support to the members of our community as we grapple with the sorrow, fear, and anxiety that is impacting all of us right now. Authorities lifted a shelter-in-place order for the Brown campus and surrounding areas Sunday morning. At least 15 killed in mass shooting at Hanukkah event on Sydney Bondi's beach. Police set up a cordon line at the scene of a mass shooting at Bondi Beach on Sunday in Sydney, Australia. A pair of father and son gunmen killed at least 15 people in a mass shooting. At a Hanukkah celebration on Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. On Sunday, according to officials, at least 42 people have been hospitalized. The elder gunman, aged 50, was shot and killed by police. Authorities said his 24-year-old son was wounded and remains hospitalized. The elder gunman, we are satisfied that there were 2 offenders involved, said New South Wales Police Commissioner Mal Lanyon in an update on Monday morning. We are not looking for a further offender. Among those killed are a 10-year-old and a 40-year-old man who died at the hospital, according to the New South Wales Police. The attack occurred around 6:45 p.m. local time on Sunday, when emergency services were called to the beach after reports of shots fired. NWS police also said. Two police officers are also injured with gunshot wounds, NSW police said. Hundreds of people are gathered at the popular beach of Chronicle by the sea, an event celebrating the start of Hanukkah, the annual Jewish festival. Two basic improvised explosive devices were found at the scene and were active, Lanyon said. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on Sunday called the shooting a targeted attack against Jewish Australians and a terrorist incident. An attack on Jewish Australians is an attack on every Australian, Albanese said in a statement posted on social media. There is no place for this hate. Violence and terrorism in our nation. Let me be clear, we will eradicate it. Chabad, an Orthodox Jewish movement which runs events around the world, identified one of the dead as Rabbi Eli Schlanger, assistant rabbi at Chabad of Bondi, a key organizer of the event. Video footage filmed by onlookers appeared to show two gunmen with long guns firing from a footbridge leading to the beach. One clip broadcast on Australian television showed a man appearing to tackle and disarm one of the gunmen. Footage shows an unarmed civilian wresting a firearm from an alleged gunman at Sydney Bondi's beach in an attack that Australian authorities said targeted Jewish community event on Sunday.
Oh! C'est un malade. Oh mon gros! Oh! Mais il est son pote, il va se faire tirer dessus. Il est trop con le mec qui a l'arme.
Mass shootings are rare in Australia, largely due to the country's strict gun laws. The country implemented some of the world's toughest gun laws after its worst ever mass shooting in 1996, when a lone gunman killed 35 people at a cafe and tourist site in Tasmania's Port Arthur. The attack is the first deadly mass shooting in Australia since 2022, when 6 people, including 2 police officers, were shot in a suspected ambush at a property as officers responded to a missing persons report. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday blamed the Sydney attack on Australia's Prime Minister, accusing him of doing nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism during the Gaza war. In remarks delivered in English at a government meeting Sunday, Net said he wrote to Albanese in August, arguing that Australia's move to recognize a Palestinian state encouraged Jewish hatred. Australia's move to recognize a Palestinian and other large Western countries recognized a state of Palestine in September. Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. Net said, you took no action. You let the disease spread, and the result is a horrific attack on Jews we saw today. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said he spoke to Australia's foreign minister, expressing Israel's pain and sorrow over the attack, and arguing there has been a surge in anti-Semitism in Australia since the Hamas-led attacks on Israel October 7th, 2023. There has been a spike in anti-Semitism attacks in Australia in recent years, including arson. In August, Albanese blamed Iran for 2 of the attacks and cut diplomatic ties to Tehran. UN Chief Antonio Guterres called the shooting a heinous, deadly attack on Jewish families. Israeli President Isaac Herzog said the country has repeatedly called on Australia to take action against an enormous wave of anti-Semitism. Feeling burned out? There's a word for that in Mandarin Chinese. Involution, an obscure term used in agricultural economics, leaped from the pages of academia into the Chinese meme world and then became part of the Chinese government policy making. If you are feeling dispirited at work or burned out by the general pressure, of life, there is a perfect word for you. Involution. The Mandarin Chinese word for involution, neizhuan, is now a ubiquitous slang term. It has struck a chord when students, exhausted by relentless academic competition, parents overwhelmed by social expectations, and workers constantly filling overtime shifts. So for this installment of Word of the Week, we explore the evolution of involution. Involution first appeared in English with its modern connotation of futility in 1963. Academic Tract by American anthropologist Clifford Geertz. On Dutch colonial society in Indonesia, he had observed people working harder than ever on the land, but yielding less and less food. The term then bounced around niche academic circles. Scholar Philip Huang used it in a seminal study, trying to explain why capitalism did not organically develop in the 20th century. Then the term appeared in a study of tax collectors in the earliest 20th century China. Percent Dora, now a professor at Duke University, had noticed that these tax collectors were actually not that good at forcing peasants to pay up. This suggested to me that there was this involution. He says, Duara's resulting book, Culture, Power, and the State, was later translated into Chinese. But how to translate involution? Book translators came up with the phrase Neihuan, combining the Mandarin words for inner, nei, and to curl or to roll, huan, invoking this idea of cycling endlessly back into oneself. Neihuan, as a Mandarin term, might have stayed in academic parlance, if not for the coronavirus pandemic in early 2020. I still vividly remember I gave a long interview to a Chinese journalist, says Bao Xiang, a director at the Max Planck Institute for Social Anthropology. In Germany, in the 2020 interview with Chinese outlet Sixth Tone, he set down the first definition of how Neihuan is now used, to pinpoint a general feeling of ennui when trapped in and what he called an endless cycle of self-flagellation. We have to intensify your effort, competing with other people for no purpose, yet you cannot quit, he explained to NPR. His interview with the Sixth Tone went viral, and from there, Neihuan took off among the Chinese public. I somehow just put the words to what people already know and already feel. People in China use Neihuan to describe something useless or doing something just for appearances. Then Neihuan got memeified, for example. A video of an elite Chinese university student studying on his laptop, even while biking at night, providing a visual emblem for the absurdity of Neihuan behavior. Now the word's path has taken another twist. Neihuan has entered the official bureaucratic lexicon. In 2024, China's top economic official, Li Zhang, criticized spiraling involution in the economy, describing a chronic problem where too many Chinese companies are competing with each other and producing the same thing. Then, this year, Chinese policymakers, led by the country's top leader, Xi Jinping, kicked off their anti-involution campaign to crack down on this overcapacity in production. So the term has come full circle to its roots, describing unproductive economic activity. Might one say the word Neihuan has made a full involution?